Let's talk about Illinois. Illinois game 2 occurred on their Spain trip. First, we got treated to a nice little video of the Illinois basketball team comparing themselves to marine animals. That was enjoyable. Brad Underwood seemed to be having a great time with that. And then after that, we were treated to being reminded that Terrence Shannon is Terrence MFing Shannon. Okay. 25 points in 15 minutes. He had 23 points at halftime of this game. And the wild thing to me is I'm like, I was watching for the record. I know you were too, but I'm also watching like the Twitter community respond to this because that's one of the best parts of all things Illinois is how are people freaking out? How are they engaging? Terrence Shannon had 23 points in the first half and nobody was talking about it. Like all the hype was like, oh, we got one with DGL. Like, oh, some guys are shooting pretty well. Like, which they weren't, by the way. But like Terrence Shannon was the story of this game. And maybe he wasn't the story just because people have come to expect that from him. But like, it's a good reminder that Illinois has a potential All-American on this team who was on pace to go for 50 in this game if Brad let him play.
Yeah, no, and he was special. He was doing everything. He was out in transition. He was knocking down threes. I mean, he was doing everything, and he was locked in defensively. It was funny because he had a bad game the first game, and they were joking at the aquarium. And Brad's like, "Yeah, he played like a polar bear yesterday, but he'll probably play like a barracuda today." And I mean, shit. I guess that's what a barracuda does. Gets 25 and a half damn near. But he was special. My main takeaway, though, the main thing that I want to talk about with the Illinois game is that at least when I flipped it on, so I flipped it on probably midway through the first quarter when I had a chance to, and it was very sloppy in the half court, very sloppy, a lot of turnovers, a lot of missed layups that I would bank on that team to typically make. But the one thing that stuck out to me out of this and outside of like singling out actual players is that this team could be very, very good defensively, and I think they could be very good in transition. I truly do. Because when they were in that lull and the half-court offense wasn't working, they started getting out in transition. You have athletes like Terrence Shannon Jr., you have athletes like Sincere Harris and no Coleman having the ability to push the ball himself and get out in transition. I think that's kind of where they did a lot of their damage and where I could see them doing a lot of damage in the season because if you are having issues in the half court and the point guard position, having trouble getting in the offense, the best way to combat that in my eyes is to get out in transition and get easy buckets and let your defense kind of feed into your offense. Did you kind of come away with that takeaway in that game?
100%. So I think often with the summer stuff overseas, like people rightfully so are like, you can't read too much into it. It's just a scrimmage, right? There's not much to conclude. I actually think with Illinois, even compared to a team like Purdue, who we're going to talk about next, I think with Illinois, there is a lot you should take away from this that will apply to this year's team. The biggest being that this team is going to have to make their identity defense and run. That's
Yes.
it. It has to be that.
Get stops, get out and run and have fun. Like lock in on defense. Like all coaches, and I'm sorry to cut you off, G. All coaches love to stake their claim on defense, and the motivation for that is not getting stops. The motivation for that, it is getting stops, but it's getting out in transition and having fun. Like have a Terrence Shannon dunk, wake up the State Farm Center, have a Coleman Hawkins push into a dish out for a three, have a Sincere Harris picking up full court 10-second count and just kind of flip the momentum. They're gonna have to lock in on that end of the floor and let that fuel the rest of the offense.
And I think it could be a really good team if that's how they want to win. And give Brad some credit. I think one of his biggest strengths as a coach that I've seen in his tenure at Illinois is he is very good at molding his teams year by year into a new identity. He doesn't have one way he wants to win basketball games. Some coaches do. Some coaches say, this is what my team is going to look like. Screw my personnel. They're going to have to figure it out. Brad Underwood a team from one year to the next will look totally different. And I think this year's team, from what I'm seeing, I think they could be elite defensively. I think this could be top 10 in the country good defensively. I think they have athletes. I think they have guys that can switch. I think they have guys that can get in your shit. I think they have a little more shot blocking than I gave them credit for the other day, because Coleman and TSJ are flying around from all positions from the weak side. So we saw that there's that clip that went viral of Gibbs-Lawhorn. He had the steal and then the windmill in transition. Like, I think they're almost going to have to do a little Shaka Smart style havoc defensively, like pressure defense, and it could work, because if they are getting out and running, this team has a bunch of athletes in transition. Now, all that said, I don't necessarily think that this coaching staff would choose to play that style basketball if they could pick their ideal world. They're going to have to do that because of their limitations on the offensive side, even if they are really good defensively. Like, this team does not have an identity in the half court, and they don't have shooting. They don't.
Yeah, and you know what also scares me personally about this is that I feel like they do have to lean into the transition thing, and unfortunately, that might mean less minutes for my king, the danger zone, Dan Danger, if they want to get out and run like they want to.
Yeah. But again, I think this team's going to look different every single game. And this is a good example of it, because Dane was the star of game one. And then in this game, he finishes with 10 points and a couple rebounds, 5 rebounds. Like, and it's not a bad thing if you have multiple ways you can win games. But I think this is very much going to be an Illinois team that, like, every night it's a different guy. They're deep. Like, they're not looking for talent. They've got 11 guys that I think warrant playing time on this team. It scares me offensively, because I really don't know what they're trying to do in the half court other than give Terrence the ball and get out of the way. Yeah. And that can work some games because TSJ is special, but we also saw last year when they needed to do that, there were plenty of times that it really got stuck in the mud and TSJ didn't have a good game and the whole team.
And there was a lot of times in this game where the point guard for Valencia would pick up full court and kind of he was a smaller guy, and he kind of got up in Ty Rodgers and got up in DGL. And I would not say they handled that well in this game. There was a couple of turnovers forced by pressure. It just didn't look right in the half court at all, whether it was making an entry pass into the post or just getting into the offense. It just did not. It just didn't really look good. Granted, second game, I guess, but you don't really want your half court offense. I feel like, yes, there's some things you can improve on your half court offense, but I would assume it should be a little bit farther along than what it is now.
We came on here the other day and downplayed the shooting concerns. We said we were worried about not having a point guard. We weren't worried about shooting. Shooters will make shots. That was largely because in game one, Coleman and TSJ combined for 0 for 10 from 3. In this game, Coleman and TSJ combined for 3 for 6 from 3. The rest of the team shot 3 for 22. The whole team, including Terrence and Coleman, shot 21% from 3, 6 for 28 in this game. They shot 55% from the free throw line as a team, 15 for 27. Where are you at with Illinois shooting right now?
I expected somewhat of a bounce back in this game, and you don't see one. So I do think that, you mentioned on the last episode, I think Damask is a guy who will improve that and be able to knock down shots. Obviously, I will never, ever sell the fact that Luke Goody's going to hit shots. That's going to happen. He's not hitting them now. He will hit shots at a pretty high clip.
Is he is he 40% though? Or because I think there's that's the question to me is he like an elite Big Ten shooter that's going to make 40% on high volume, or is he like he can shoot and he makes 35%? Because right now he's
I think he ends up somewhere like the 38 to 40 range.
Okay, I guess because he was 2 for 6 game one, 1 for 3 this game. I still I know he's a shooter. I buy the shot. I need to see a game where he's like 4 for 5 just to believe it can happen.
He also hasn't got that great of looks.
Yeah.
To me personally, that stems back to what's going on in the half court.
Yeah. Also, just going down the list, man, like Sincere Harris, not a shooter, 0 for 3. Justin Harmon, we don't know, 0 for 2. Quincy Guerrier is supposed to be a shooting upgrade, 0 for 2. Gibbs-Lawhorn, man, 1 for 8. We keep doing the Carson Edwards comparison. He was 5 for 15 from the floor in this game with 0 assists.
That is Carson, so he's going to come back next game and have 30.
So that's the Gibbs
and hit 7 threes.
The Gibbs-Lawhorn thing's interesting too, because I think a lot of the big reactions to this game were Illinois fans being like, "Oh, we got one with DGL," because he had some really eye-popping moments. Like I said, the steal for the breakaway windmill was huge. I still think the kid gets downhill incredibly well for his size. We like his offensive package. Brad, after the game, was asked about it, and I thought this was a very careful choice of words from him. He said Gibbs-Lawhorn played a lot of point guard today. Like he came out and actually assigned that name to DGL. You're not saying that about Ty Rodgers. You're not saying that about anybody else now. Like I think the wheels are starting to spin from this coaching staff, and like DGL might have to play the point for us. I think you saw the downside of what DGL is going to look like at point guard in year one, though, as a true freshman. Like he led this team in shot attempts with 15. He only made 5. He was 1 for 8 from 3. He had 0 assists to 2 turnovers. And people are coming away from this being like, he had a really good game. The half-court offense was horrible. And it's not all DGL's fault, but like this team does need him to play point guard, and he's just wired so much more like I'm a go get my buckets guy. That works in transition to your point, but I'm a little concerned both by the shooting and very concerned by the point guard play right now that like, man, can you imagine if this team just did get like Tiger Campbell? like
and Creasa, Mulcahy.
Aren't we talking about Illinois as like a top 5 team in the country if Tiger Campbell's their point guard right now?
I hear an argument for that, yeah.
And I know Tiger's not playing college, so it's not like Illinois necessarily did anything wrong there, but there's just such a gaping hole, man. It's going to be all year trying to put a puzzle piece that doesn't fit in the most important spot of this half-court offense. I don't know. Anyways, yeah, blowout win. Illinois, where's your confidence level? If you had to put a number on it, 1 to 10, based on the 2 games you've seen coming off of this win against Valencia, 10 being they win a game in the NCAA tournament, 0 being they missed the NCAA tournament. What's your confidence meter at?
10 saying they win a game?
They win a game in the NCAA tournament.
10.
Wow. Okay.
10. Yeah. I think that Terrence Shannon Jr. and Coleman Hawkins alone and what Sincere Harris is doing, I think that they'll be able to grind their way out to 1 win in the tournament.
Okay. I'm at like a 7.
I think Terrence Shannon Jr. by himself is worth 1 NCAA tournament win. That's how I feel about it. He's that good.
Okay. I'm at like a 7 for the record, but I think there's more positives than negatives to take away from this, even though we keep harping on the shooting and the point guard. Like I said, elite defensively. That's the recipe. Be a top 10 defensive team in the country. There's a path forward for Illinois to be very competitive this year.